Hello, how are you? Let's go over the information about what's happening in the world. The critical moment has arrived. Iran continues attacking, a volcano surprises with an eruption, and more. We're going to be watching this live. If you're just joining, go ahead and like and share, and let's go with the first image. According to reports, an industrial area in Israel has been affected, a building in Beersheba, Israel, according to what is being reported. We'll see what else is known later on, but obviously this kind of situation is also surprising. Another topic that draws attention is this volcano, which is shown over there on a French island at the Piton de la Fournaise, or Fortnite. No, that's not right. It would be de la Fournaise. That's what it would be. According to reports, in 20 years, an eruption of this level had not been seen. Lava flows of this magnitude had not been recorded in the last 2 decades, according to what the observatory on this French island reports. Another issue that draws attention is what's happening in Iran, because there's a problem, right? When there is a war objective, in this case, is the goal to try to prevent the Iranians from having nuclear weapons. But Rafael Grossi changes the perspective this time and draws attention with what he has said right now. He assures or acknowledges that, well, Iran would have indeed suffered a hard blow. This is considering that nuclear facilities have indeed been attacked and damaged. In a new report, well, it has been surprising. And why has it been surprising? Well, because we have to remember that until a few days ago, it was claimed that the Iranian nuclear facilities remained intact. What is known? Let's go into the details of it. The United Nations nuclear chief warns that the attacks have not ended the nuclear program, but they have affected it. The director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, by the way, is originally from Argentina. He confirmed that Iran's nuclear program suffered enormous damage after the attacks on the facilities. However, this is where it gets interesting, because he warns that not everything was destroyed. What does it mean that Iran still retains important nuclear capabilities? Does it mean that the objective of the war is not ready yet? At least one of the main ones. There are 2 main objectives in this conflict: to end the regime of the Ayatollahs, which seems complicated, at least for now, and to put an end to the Iranian nuclear program. Also, it's a difficult issue because they're underground, at least a good part of the facilities. Let me just have some coffee here with you, and let's get into the details. According to reports, the extra information given is that the most alarming point is that the enriched uranium stored in Isfahan could be enough for the production of up to 12 nuclear weapons. This would completely change the strategic balance in the Middle East. From that point on, if Iran had nuclear weapons, at least the countries around it would be really worried about having a country that many of them consider an enemy, and that would be armed to the teeth. Now, Saudi Arabia has indicated that if Iran has nuclear weapons, they will immediately also acquire nuclear weapons. They have the money and they have the technical capability, but so far they do not have nuclear weapons. It should be remembered that Saudi Arabia has been researching and has become very serious about the scientific field for several years now. To move forward, they have a space program, they've sent a probe to Mars. Let's go. Saudi Arabia is also a country that is betting on technology, but so is Iran and obviously Israel, except that Israel has nuclear weapons. There's always the question of why some continue and others don't, and the ongoing debate about it. But what's important here is that the more countries have nuclear weapons, especially those with regimes that seek to expand a religion, well, obviously it makes you think. One thing that Grossi and Rafael Grossi have said is that they reject, let's say, this idea that the nuclear program is completely over. I mean, the program is still partly there. He explains that the big debate now is what it is. Is Iran going to agree to suspend enrichment, at least for a few years, as part of an agreement, of a new agreement? We're revisiting the recurring cycles to understand why the agreement, which already existed, was broken. Iran allowed specialists to come in and check that there was no nuclear weapons program and everything was peaceful. That agreement was reached during Obama's time. Who broke that agreement? And because of that, we're facing this problem on the planet right now. Donald Trump in his first term, how was it broken? They shot Soleimani, eliminating the second most important figure in the military area of the Revolutionary Guard. And from there, the situation gets more complicated because Iran shuts down Iran. We also have to acknowledge that when it comes to negotiations, it's always very ambiguous. It says one thing but means another. So, on both sides, you can see there's an impossibility of dialogue. And it seems like this just won't have any possibilities until one ends up destroying the other. Basically, the entire Iranian regime is at stake. I mean, it's the existence of the regime that's at stake, not the population, but the regime itself. But whatever new thing emerges doesn't necessarily mean it will be better. Well, we won't know that until it happens, if it happens at all, but yes. He also insists that the only real solution is an international agreement with inspections. And he's probably right. I mean, it's the only possible one, because up to now, at least in the near term, we don't see the fall of the regime. Hey, if it happens, well, let's hope that the next regime or the next government isn't interested in arming itself with nuclear issues and all that. Calm, but we don't know that either. That's why what the franchise says is that the only real possibility right now is to reach an agreement and allow the International Atomic Energy Agency. This atomic organization can review and closely see what's happening inside. Another issue that also draws attention and is very unfortunate is what's happening right now in Tehran. In the capital, it's being reported that a series of trials are taking place right now. Pay attention. With this, the Iranian regime is ordering trials that are practically sending more young people who have protested against the regime to be eliminated. Iran orders trials without mercy and threatens executions in the midst of war. They have ordered immediate trials without any kind of mercy for citizens accused of treason in the context of the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran. The head of the judiciary, Komolzain Mohasne Ajay, warned that the accused could face the death penalty if found guilty, just like that. Iranian authorities also claim that these proceedings aim to guarantee, as they say, the psychological security of the population amid the conflict. Just imagine, so that everyone can be at ease. They are going to eliminate those who disagree with whom? With the Ayatollah, with the Prime, with the Supreme Leader, or whatever they call him, right? What's happening is tremendous. By the way, other things that are also tremendous are what's happening in the conflict over there in Lebanon. They claim in Netanyahu that they have ordered the Israeli army to expand the security zone in Lebanon. This is now official because it had been warned that they are thinking about a new security belt, so to speak. This is on the border between Lebanon and Israel. Here in this little area, what they're going to do is move further ahead in that belt. In other words, to take, let's say, a bit more of Lebanon and, well, in theory, push Hezbollah further back. The controversy is whether this might be a way of taking land from Lebanon. On the other hand, Lebanon is on red alert because Lebanon doesn't want Hezbollah, but on the other hand, they haven't been able to deal with them. And what Israel says, and justifiably so, is, hey, they've just launched hundreds of rockets at me this past month. How could I not do something? So, there's a huge tug of war going on. But now Netanyahu has come out to clarify to the Prime Minister about what has been given as an order. And it's, well, the most controversial part. An order for expansion, he says. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, ordered the expansion of the security zone in southern Lebanon. Country. Well, as you know, it's right next to and has a coast on the Mediterranean, right? The decision aims to keep the threat of Hezbollah's missiles and rockets as far away as possible. Netanyahu also stated that the measure is part of a new military strategy to change the security zone into 3 security belts, which is in territories where their enemies operate: Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. That is what he said. It's a huge issue, a topic that is clearly controversial, because those on the other side also say, well, they're taking a piece of land from us. And that's where the dispute is right now. Well, it's official now. A Venezuelan has been sanctioned. Not this individual, no, this is Maduro, this one right here. A Venezuelan official who, by the way, is sanctioned by the United States, has been appointed as the Director of Intelligence for the Venezuelan National Guard. This must be raising alarms in the United States because, in the end, strategically, what Desi Rodriguez did was from a position of weakness, in the sense that, well, they had taken Maduro by force, very quickly and practically without consequences for the United States. Well, Desi says, well, this phlogistic is operating, right? But at the same time, she is making her moves to make the regime she now leads more solid. In the end, she wasn't elected either, and in the end as well, she has been part of Madurismo, Chavismo, whatever we want to call it. The Maduro regime appointed General Vladimir Humberto Lugo as the new one at the time. Well, the DECI regime would be rather the DECI regime. He appoints or puts this person, Humberto Lugo Armas, as the new Director of Intelligence of the Bolivarian National Guard. He, in 2017 or since 2017, has been sanctioned for his participation in actions in the Bolivarian Guard. The Bolivarian Guard, individual who is here. So, well, he was also charged by the Venezuelan Public Prosecutor's Office for human rights violations following that year's assault on the Federal Legislative Palace. In that episode, shock groups entered the parliament and attacked opposition deputies, while Lugo was head of the Security Command. Testimonies at the time claimed that his rise within the National Guard was precisely due to his loyalty and radicalism in favor of the regime. He is already a radical figure, someone who has shown himself to be very tough, and now he is the one in charge of intelligence. Just imagine, this movement is happening at an extremely delicate political moment for Venezuela. The Intelligence Directorate is key. It controls information, counterintelligence, political surveillance, and internal security. Basically, this is how Rodriguez del Ciro Rodriguez, or the Rodriguez family, is finding a way to solidify power in that country. It's a serious issue that, well, will have to be analyzed. But here the big question I ask our friends watching us from Venezuela or Venezuelans abroad, which by the way is surprising, but yes, the topic of what will happen with the upcoming elections in Venezuela has really died down. A lot of the Venezuelan community used to write to us frequently about this topic. Well, they are, at least to us, asking us what do we want, what is going to happen in the future with the regime, and also seeing that some of the changes that happen are maybe just crumbs. But these are positive things that have been seen within this movement that Trump is leading. But on the other hand, also with the idea of, well, and where is the future of Venezuela headed, right? What will the future be? How will that government be restructured? Will it stay the way it was before? All eyes are on that. There are many media outlets and a lot of people who are watching what the future of Venezuela will be. Many people who want to return but still don't feel confident about it. This kind of news where they see that radical people from the previous regime, who are part of the same group, are starting to position themselves in areas that are extremely key, unique, and important for the future of, I insist, a regime that doesn't want to fall for any reason. Another thing that also draws attention is what happened with this university located in Beirut, Lebanon. The American University of Beirut reportedly suspended classes. These are in-person classes, at least suspended, because the Iranian regime has threatened all American universities that are in the Middle East. There was an impact. A part of the Tehran University of Technology was apparently hit by a drone or a missile. And from there, they say that they might possibly attack these universities. The American University of Beirut suspended all in-person classes and switched to virtual mode, at least for the next few days after the threats from the Iranians. The warning comes directly from the Revolutionary Guard, who told them that they would be targets that they could fire at this university. Obviously a very serious issue. Iran issued this warning and accuses the United States and Israel of bombing the University of Tehran, saying that Iranians would not be able to attend university. And the issue, well, there it is, at least for him. It's a serious matter.
Ese asunto, otro punto y aparte.
Iran issued a warning, and the University of Iran warning, and accuses the United States University of Tehran, Iran, this to the states and bombing Tehran. Iran issued this warning and accuses the United States of bombing Tehran. Iran issued this warning in Tehran to the Europeans who see how every week, every 2 weeks, there are major attacks on or against the continent's cybersecurity. The European Commission has confirmed that they have suffered another cyber attack against their digital infrastructure, specifically on the cloud platform that supports the European Union portal. Apart from this, the attack, which was detected on March 24th, has only just now been made public, in which, according to the Commission itself, the attack did not completely disrupt the functioning of the websites. It was more of a silent attack in which they were obtaining and stealing data, basically trying to capture as much information as possible, without being noticed and without taking down the portal's systems. So the portal seemed to be working fine, but they were getting all the information. The initial investigation suggests that the attackers may have extracted data, although that has not yet been confirmed, and it is not known exactly how much data they took. But do they think that's the direction? That's what they believe the attack was focused on. European Union is not just any website. It's the gateway to registration services, subscriptions, alerts, and administrative systems of the European Union. That's why it's important. Although for now there are no suspects, since obviously this seems like a cyber attack. Because it's a matter of geopolitics. I mean, an issue that could be related to one of the countries that have been facing off, confronting each other lately. For Europeans, let's move on to other matters, also important ones. On other matters, there's also a forest fire in Nosar de la Vera in Cáceres that's over in Spain. We'll be keeping an eye on how it develops. That topic is an issue obviously important as well, among other matters. Tiger Woods, who was reportedly detained for driving under the influence of alcohol, has already been released. He spent 8 hours behind bars. The former golfer, not the former #1 golfer in the world, since he has already been released. This is not the first time he has had trouble with issues related to alcohol and driving. That also stands out today. Let's move on to other important matters. Check out what's happening this time in Tehran, Iran. Let's get into the details. The following has been reported in the last 24 hours. This comes from the official account of the Israel Defense Forces, who are showing this attack. In the last 24 hours, more than 150 fighter jets have been used to attack infrastructure facilities, according to their reports, towards Iran. More than 120 different munitions have also been used in attacks against Tehran's infrastructure facilities. The targets include a facility for the development of critical components for ballistic missiles, a facility used for the military industries of the IRGC, that is, the Revolutionary Guard Force. No, they would also be operating in that sense. Yes, that too. Well, it's important to mention it, isn't it also part of what's happening right now? Not other matters, not other topics. What is also drawing attention is what's been happening in the last few hours. In this report made by the International Energy Agency, your friend I mentioned at the beginning has confirmed through satellite images that the heavy water production plants in Kondodab, which are part of the Arak nuclear complex in Iran, have suffered serious damage. And it's no longer operational. I mean, this is already confirmed by them. It's no longer operational. This plant. That's key. It's extremely important for this to be known, because this would be one of the main objectives of the United States and Israel in this conflict. Not a topic, well, obviously also important, right? At the end of the day, Well, let's stay alert to what's happening everywhere. But I also like to share some curious things with you here from time to time. Like what happens with passports? Passports have a ranking based on how many countries accept your passport for you to travel to another country, right? And to give you an example, since 2006, the English passport, I mean, those from the United Kingdom, according to what's being said. By the way, this is reported by the Passport Index. Org, the Passport Index. Org is an organization that studies how powerful a passport is or not. I mean, how much you can do with your passport, like how much you can travel, where you can go, and so on, right? How hard is it to get? How expensive is it? Normally, passport prices vary a lot depending on the country. But in the case of the United Kingdom, for example, in 2006, the United Kingdom had the third most powerful passport in the world. In 2010, it was the most powerful passport in the world. And how is that passport now? In 2026. It's number 6 or dropped to 6. So from being number 1 in 2010, now it's number 6. It has dropped. Which countries can the United Kingdom visit? Well, that's what happens sometimes with changes in the policies of some countries. For example, Mexico in 2006 was in 31st place. Look, in 2006 it was in 31st place. Now look at how much it has increased. The Mexican passport is now in 20th place. That means more countries accept entry without any kind of visa for Mexico. For example, for Mexico, 95 countries can enter without any kind of visa, just with a passport. And that's it. And then there's another range of 40-something countries where you need like a permit. You pay $20 or whatever and you get through. And then there's a small range of countries, like for example, the United States, Canada, where you already need a slightly more complex visa. No, but honestly, the ranking isn't bad at all. It actually did pretty well. If you want and you're interested in the report, we can do it for several countries. Let me know, please, and we'll talk about it tonight so we can discuss it here with the whole Asterillo community. And let's see how Argentina is doing, how Colombia is doing, how Brazil is doing, right? This one. And that way we can go through different countries just to, well, understand a little bit how that ranking is. I think it's interesting. Let's also move on to other topics, other interesting and curious topics. Look, a study has been done that I find very interesting to share here with the community, in which they found which exercise helps the most for sleeping. No, in the end, it's a problem that is experienced a lot in many parts of the world. I think it's happened to all of us that we've struggled to sleep at some point and so on. Well, a study is done. This is what scientists call a meta-analysis, meaning they gather studies from many scientific institutions. They combine studies from various years, mostly recent ones. And here, on this occasion, they gathered or analyzed 30 controlled studies involving 2,500 people with sleep disorders in different countries. Yes, this study identified which exercise is most effective for improving sleep in the long term. Yes, and they say it's not what people think. Here it goes. No, it's not. The result. They say that among the most notable was Tai Chi, for example, but the one that would have won. According to the scientists and researchers from Harbin Sport University in China, which is a powerhouse, they say this university is a leader in scientific research in this area, the result was clear and by a lot. They studied all kinds of sports, weightlifting, running, walking, etc. High-intensity yoga, not just any yoga, high-intensity yoga was the exercise that by far improved sleep quality the most. Extremely. The most surprising thing is that long sessions weren't needed, with less than 30 minutes twice a week. The improvements were remarkable. The positive effects started to be noticeable from the 8th week, and from then on, the practice became more and more noticeable, he says. Walking, for example, came in second place, which isn't bad at all, and it's very simple, right? Walking came in second place as the most beneficial exercise for better sleep, followed by resistance training. Is that good? Those 3 places are yoga, walking, and resistance training. That's what was done as a study to find out. According to this Chinese university, the effects, they say, last about the same for the other exercises between the 8th and 10th week. The benefits are surprising. However, experts warn that there is no universal solution that has to be tried and that it doesn't work the same for everyone. So, well, I think it's a topic that's at least interesting to consider. They assure that this finding will be presented in different scientific studies and journals so that it can be analyzed and investigated by other peers. And so it becomes part of the we are going to go as in the global medical recommendation, but that will go through a process. Here I can tell you in advance that this is at least the approach they have. Obviously, we will see other opinions, but I think it sounds pretty logical to me. At least, well, that they are among the top places in yoga, tai chi, and in walking and resistance exercises. No, I mean me too. There are different types. One is cardiovascular endurance: running, jogging, swimming, cycling, jumping, rope skipping, climbing stairs, dancing, aerobics. All of that would be among the top places, or it's also very broad, right? But muscular endurance isn't there, which would be what they call calisthenics. Squats, weights, sit-ups, burpees, all those kinds of things. And then there's another topic, which is endurance, but at another level, which are very efficient methods like high-intensity interval training. Obviously, this isn't a recommendation. Everyone should check it out according to their own taste and style. Go to a specialist, and see what works for you. Because everyone is different. No, well, let's go. Another topic. In a moment, there will be another update. There's a lot of information for us. Sunday is the busiest day. Sunday is always our Monday. That's how it is, right? So there's a lot of information. So in just a moment, we'll be back with another update. Take care. Have an excellent Sunday, an excellent weekend. See you in a moment.